And now, the Morning Stampede continues with Bill Stamps on 99.7 WTN.
And Jerry Clower.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Oh, shoot this thing. Man, I love hearing that horse neigh. That's a Mustang. That's a Mustang horse. I can see him.
Yes. Yeah. You know, this is great. I was looking through some of the press here, and just before we went on mic, I was saying, Jerry, let's just let her fly here because, we can do press clips and the whole bit, but it starts off, and I think this is very true of you. It says, Jerry Clower is his real name. The stories he tells really happen. And the laughter that greets those stories is the real thing, not canned.
Well, I think I've proven that the funniest things in the world actually happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now there's some creative minds can think up funny things, but the funniest thing actually, the funniest things actually happen. I'm standing on the street corner at Liberty, Mississippi the other day, in front of Liberty Drugstore. A funeral is coming by. We all stop. We put a hand over our heart, and a good old boy standing in front of me whispers to his buddy, said, "Who died?" He said, "The one in the first car." Well, you can't create that. That's got to happen.
That's absolutely the facts, Okay, I can see where this show's going.
Man.
I ain't going to
Let her rip,
Bill. Well, Jerry, you've had an illustrious career. You've been in the business for 29 years. You without a doubt probably hold some kind of record with MCA for having been the longest-lasting comedian artist on that label. They must be very pleased with you.
Well, I hope so. I've been on the label since 1970.
Whoa.
And I have 28 albums and 2 home videos on MCA. They've been real good to me. And as I think back over when we started and some of the people who been with MCA, I remember when the fella from Hollywood flew to Yazoo City, Mississippi. Somebody had sent him a tape of one of my stories, and he come skipping off of that airplane with the pistol-legged breeches and had a black leather vest, and it had a hairdo looked like a milking machine had been sucking on it. and my neighbor said, "Run him off." But about that time, he opened that briefcase and showed me how much cash money he had brought with him, and my attitude got a lot more tolerant about them hairdos. But when the man signed me, he said, "Now, Mr. Clower, go to Nashville and make sure Owen Bradley likes you." And hallelujah, Mr. Bradley liked me.
Quite
and
obviously.
The rest of it is history.
Well, you are a legend with the Grand Ole Opry. How many years have you been doing the Grand Ole
I
Opry?
was inducted into the world-famous Grand Ole Opry in 1973.
Whoa. So let's do it for him, Art. You bake better biscuits, cakes, and pies with Martha White's surprising meal. Martha White's surprising meal, for goodness sake.
Hey, man, Lester would be proud.
All right.
Yeah, and Marty Stewart, I'm sure. I'd love y'all for doing that.
I guess they still do that, don't they?
Yes, sir.
They still do it out there on Saturday night.
And the late Mr. Williams, God bless him.
Yeah, Mr. Williams, how many years did you work with him?
Well, he was a Martha White man, and I've never done any commercials for Martha White. I just eat them grits.
Yeah. See, I would think that any commercial first of all, let's look at it this way. I mean, to continue to have the credibility and the stature that you have, and be a comedian. Most comedians, as you know, they kind of skits out after a while, and they don't really have the credibility that one looks for as far as endorsement goes. But I would think that you could sell any product to anyone. You'd be the best salesman with the best jargon, but on top of that, I think people would believe you.
I've been very successful in doing commercials. There's a national company called Sutherland. They own 104 home centers in 44 states. Their national headquarters is Kansas City. And when I did the first commercial 18 years ago, Madison Avenue said, "Now, celebrity don't do a commercial but 13 weeks. Well, the Sutherlands go by the cash register. They don't go by expert advice. And I've been doing the commercials ever since for 18 years.
Wow.
And I sell Chevrolet pickups for Walker Jones Chevrolet Buick O's, Waycross, Georgia.
Waycross, Georgia.
I love hearing him do the spot.
Yeah, well, my background is sales. I started out in agribusiness, and I was in agribusiness sales.
Yeah.
I love doing a commercial because it gives me an opportunity to sell.
Right.
And don't nothing ever happen in the world until somebody sells something.
I'm in agreement with that. As a matter of fact, can you believe this? Moose is calling us from the car. How are you this morning?
Go ahead, Moose.
What's happening, Moose? Moose, are you there? He'll call back. Let's take him off the air. Well, it was a good start. Moose from the car. A while ago, we had 3 police officers in here, and we're talking about domestic violence and that sort of thing. And I look up on the screen that's placed in front of me to tell me who's on the line and that sort of thing, and it says Ken Sanders from Cell. And what it meant was cellular, but they just put up cell. I thought somebody was calling us from the jailhouse.
Yeah.
So Moose will call us back.
Let's call Moose.
Now, you live in Liberty, Mississippi.
I live on One Amazing Grace Lane, Liberty, Mississippi, 39645. But that's actually 10 miles out into the country. I live a mile from where I was born.
So you are a Libertyvilleite.
Yes, that's right. Now, I lived in Yazoo City, Mississippi for 34 years, but when my last young'un got out of high school and went off to Mississippi State, me and Mama moved back to the old home place. And it's just unbelievable.
That is the homestead, right?
That is. I'm a mile from where I was born, a mile from where I publicly professed my faith in the Lord, a mile from where I was baptized, a mile from where I was married, and a mile from where I'm going to be buried.
Good for you. Yeah. I think he's got it figured out already.
Sir. I tell you what, he told us some interesting things I didn't know about him, about that pigskin.
And see what, Mississippi State, but first I should say this. You're modest enough that you won't say that just up and turn left off of One Amazing Grace is Jerry Clower Highway, right?
Yes, from Macomb to Liberty. That's 27 miles. They named that the Jerry Clower Highway. And
but wait a minute, aren't there 2 Jerry Clower highways?
Well, there's a boulevard in Yazoo City that's about 3 miles long. But the Jerry Clower Highway, you would have been shocked had you been to the ribbon cutting, because I got up and thanked them for doing it. Usually you pop your knuckles and shift your feet.
Right.
It's, y'all ought not to have done this. and I jumped up and said, thank you. I'm so glad you named this highway after me, and let me tell you why. I used to get off the school bus when I was a little boy, and I didn't have no daddy. He was gone. And I'd walk across the woods to where they building 24 highway, and the caterpillars would be going. And I'd see them take a break, and a man take a bucket and take a sandwich out of that bucket. And I would cry because I didn't have no sandwich. And I would pray. I say, oh, dear God, I hope one day I'll grow up to where I can get me a job, a wonderful job, like driving a Caterpillar bulldozer or blowing up stumps with dynamite. if I could just get me one of them jobs. And I said, if one of those workers had said, hey, boy, several years from now, you going to amount to enough that they're going to name this cotton-picking highway after you, I'd have died with a heart attack. And I said, this is a great country, and this is Jerry Clower Highway, and I'll walk circumspectly and never do nothing to make y'all ashamed you name it after me. And I feel that way about it.
Yeah, and you know what? Everybody, including me, as I've just heard that, believes you, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go back to Moose. He's in the car, and you're coming in a lot better, huh, Moose?
Yeah, Bill. Thanks a lot for taking my call.
You bet.
I just want to say hello to Mr. Clower. He's been a part of my life. I'm a native Nashvilleian, but I was in the Air Force for 20 years, and I listened to Jerry in Columbus, Mississippi in 1972. Every morning about 3 o'clock when I'd get up, he'd be on WWL, I believe, out of New Orleans.
Yes.
And before I went to flight training, I was a pilot. And of course, those were interesting years back then. But I mean, I used to listen to Jerry Clower, and I saw a magazine the other day, Mr. Clower, with your picture in it, advertising, of course, what you do, and
yes.
it brought back smiles and a warm memory
yes.
of where you affected my life many years ago when I was down in Columbus, Mississippi.
Well, Moose, you're very kind. My daughter Sue is married to the student minister of the First Baptist Church of Columbus, Mississippi, a young man named Ken Hall. Bless you.
Well, I tell you, Jerry, you've done a great job, and I love listening to you, and I hope to hear you another 20 years.
Thank you, Moose. Keep listening to my buddies here on WTN.
Bill, I just want to also say that the last month in your 8 to 9 o'clock show is probably the best radio show in this town, and I want to thank you for that.
Hallelujah.
All right,
Ain't
thanks
that
very
nice?
much.
Yeah.
And Moose, let me ask you something. Was it your mom or your dad who gave you that name?
You know what? My mom, bless her heart, has passed away, but she called me Moose till the day she died.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was a call sign I picked up in the Air Force and kept it for a long time. And So I've kept it. I work with Tomcats Catering here out of Nashville, so I'm kind of tied to the music industry just a little bit. But I've kept that name. But it's really Michael, and I don't tell many people that.
I love you. Anybody named Moose that works for Tomcat, you've got to be a good one.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Clower.
Moose,
Hey, bye-bye, Moose.
take it easy, man.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
calling. You
All right,
betcha.
bye-bye.
It's 8:19 on the yawning, and it's 44 degrees outside with the wind chill factor. We don't know, but it's a couple of degrees below that. Did you have wind chill factor when you were a kid? I
No,
don't
sir,
remember.
and I hate anybody that invented it.
Yeah,
Whoever
I mean,
invented that
what is this?
ought to have all the hair shaved off the head.
As I have. It's 8:19 on the yawning, y'all. Now you are one great family man. I want you to know this. Here's what I did. Yesterday I called down and I spoke to Mayor Gerald Miller.
Yes, sir.
Caught him at the house. You know why? Because the mayor's office closes at 12 noon in Liberty, Mississippi.
That's right.
12 noon?
Yeah, and I spoke with him and asked him if he would please give us a call this morning and speak with you on the air with us listening, because I think this is very interesting. Gerald Miller on line 4. How are you this morning, Mr. Mayor?
How you doing?
Great. How's everybody? How's all 643 people down there?
Oh, we fine this morning.
We've got one of your best friends, one of the guys that hangs out at the watering hole called Liberty Drug Store.
Good morning, Mayor.
How you doing, friend?
All right. This is quite a surprise. It's good to talk to you.
We're so proud of you and so glad you up there and telling people about this great country down here. And I just talked to Neil Rollins. He's going down to the drugstore to tell them what's going on up there.
That's wonderful.
You know, Gerald, you were telling me yesterday that you knew Jerry's mom and you know his family, the fact that he helps in any regard that he can in Liberty. You know, I called down yesterday, and as you know, I spoke with the sheriff's office before I got in touch with you because I couldn't find you. The door was closed at 12 noon. You guys were hanging out back down there at Liberty Drug Store, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I tell you what, Jerry's East Park resident, and we in the suburbs of it because he's put another fork on that east out there since he come back here and built this nice home, and he's a real instrumental factor out in that community, and it just spills over, and he comes down here and shares it with us nearly every day when he's home. And I don't partake of the club yet. I'm becoming a member of that club down at the Liberty Drug Store real soon, and Jerry knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I hear good things that they say and do around here, and we are so proud of him. And he now, I have a lot of calls. Every day I get calls. I want to know about Jerry Clower. So before him, Liberty, Mississippi, they say, where is that? Mm-hmm. You know, and now I can tell them, well, we are in the suburbs of Eastport, around 4 Liberty, Mississippi, and they know about where we are.
Well, look, we should go ahead and point out the fact, by the way, that aside from Jerry Clower, you're known for oil and timber, and you got a company down there, Air Cruisers. That's the guys that make the escape devices that we never want to use on the 747s, right?
That's right, and they are bragging point. They really a big name outfit with us, and their home base is in Paris, France, and they come down and visit with us, and
that's got to be.
Believe me. Those French people know about Jerry Clower, too. They want to someday get with him and have him in. They had a national, well, not a national, international sales meeting here a couple of years ago, and I got to attend, and they were people from all over the world, and you would be surprised when people from Trinidad asking about Jerry Clower. So he's springing up even across the water.
Mr. Mayor, I want you to be sure and tell Mr. Charles Hazelwood and Charles Jones and shortstop Felder. That's Truett Felder.
Yeah.
That I got the jig pole.
All right.
It's locked up in my pickup. I'll bring it to him Monday.
It's because you got the jig pole.
Yeah, I come through West Point. I offered old Truett a donut the other day, and he said, no, I can't eat them, but I sure could use a jig pole. He knew I was going through West Point.
Yeah.
So I bought him a B&M Bucks jig pole. I'll give it to him Monday.
Good, I'll tell him.
Now, this is a crappie pole, y'all. This jig pole, you tie a jig on it and you catch white perch or crappie.
All right.
And that's what this jig pole is, and the jig is on it, and you wham, you catch about a 2-pound white perch.
Guaranteed, huh?
Yes.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we want to tell you thank you very much for taking the time to call up here. Quite obviously.
We might need them open airways. I wouldn't be surprised that Liberty Drugstore bought you and trying to get to you right now.
The Liberty Watering Hole guys, huh?
That's it.
Well, good to talk to you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, we're proud of you, Jerry.
I'll see you on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
We're picking up the edge and moving it over. 99.7 WTN. Talk it up.
It's 8:26 in the yawning. You're in tune to the Morning Stampede with Bill Stamps, my friend Harvey McGee, and our new best friend Jerry Clower. So pleased to have you here with us, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Let's take a call, shall we? We'll open the lines, by the way, 737-9986, 737-WWTN, which means wonderful, wonderful Tennessee. Joe from Nashville. How are you this morning, Joe?
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Hey, Joe.
Love your show, Bill and Harvey.
Thank you.
Listen to it every morning. And you got my idol on there today. This goes back to 1950. I want to see if he remembers this.
All right.
Oh, Joe.
When he played for the Bullies down in Starkville.
Sure.
Do you remember beating the Big Orange down there in 1950?
7-0.
7-0. Ruined our season.
Well, no, it didn't ruin your season because you didn't lose another game,
That's
Joe,
right.
that whole year.
And beat Texas in the Cotton
You
Bowl.
went to the Cotton Bowl, beat Texas, and you ended up being the national champions with one loss.
That's right.
But the loss was to Mississippi State University Bulldogs.
You're right.
Oh, and General Bob Nalen,
You got it. And you
General
beat
Bob Nalen, after that game, walked over to Joe Fortunato, All-American linebacker, and took him by the hand. He said, "Son, you the best I ever saw."
Really?
And any man that hustles and has a desire to work as hard as you did said, "We're inviting you to go to the if we go to a bowl game, we're going to take you with us." That's right. I remember that.
Now, Joe, did you play?
Yes, I was behind Larcella and Payne. I'm sure he remembers those names, old single-wing tailback.
Larcella, what you talking about? I remember Ted Dapper.
Ted Dapper.
Doug Atkins.
Pug Pierman.
Bert Richardshaw.
Right.
Bud Pierman. Oh,
Andy
man,
Kozar.
Yeah. Dr. Andy
Dr.
Kozar
Andy
now,
Kozar.
teaching at the University of Tennessee. You done brought back some precious memories, Joe.
Well,
But I'm glad you brought up a game where we whooped you.
Yeah, I know it. You know, that at that time, Jerry, Kentucky and Tennessee and that's when Bear was up at Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, they had a guy named Babe Pirelli.
That's
They had
right.
a guy named Bob Gain. Them great coaches win, but they win with great people.
You got it.
Hey,
Hey, I
Joe,
wanted
let's see,
to
I'm
tell
sorry.
you have been my hero for a lot of years, and love you to death.
Thank
I
you,
really
Joe.
mean it.
Appreciate it.
Got some tapes I play in my car all the time of you.
All right, Joe.
Thank you.
Before you go, Joe,
Yeah.
was he pretty intimidating, by the way, back in those days?
Come right, he was. In
Yeah.
fact, they had a bunch of old country boys that intimidate you pretty good.
Well, thanks a lot for your call, Joe.
Hey, enjoy it.
All right, it's 8:29 in the yawning. We're almost going into news, and I understand we're going to lose you. You're on your way to pitch these. Now, tell me about this. First of all, we were talking about this, or I was actually investigating, shall we say, and you've been in the business 29 years, but
Yes.
very literally, this past year has been your most financially successful year.
Well, yes, and I got more
Do you
dates.
mind if I say financially
Yeah,
successful?
that's fine, and I got more dates lined up at this time of the year than I've ever had. And Tandy Rice thinks it's a hit infomercial that I did with Roland Martin selling a helicopter fishing lure. And it's being run everywhere, and folks are calling, and I'm the most blessed entertainer in the world. And to be up here with you two fellas just makes me start this day off and gonna make it super dino whopping.
Will you do a little slant face before you get out of here?
Well, slant face is an affectionate term that you call a raccoon because his old face is slanted. And Marcel Ledbetter was running the big bow coon the other day. Oh, he'd been trying to catch him for years. And Highball, the greatest coon dog that ever lived, was right in behind him, and the big slant-faced raccoon jumped in the river, started swimming. Highball went right in behind him. In a little while, Highball come up and was smelling his muddy foot And somebody said, what in the world's that dog doing? Marcel said that he's trying to figure out if the coon's walking on the bottom or swimming in the water. Yeah. He's a good dog, y'all.
Let's give it a big woo together.
Yeah, Chris and Harvey.
Well, I tell you what, folks, it ain't been music, but this has been music to our ears and to our souls and to our hearts, and you are absolute legends sitting across from us.
Well, this is the most prepared radio show I've ever done since I've been in show business.
Wow.
I've never seen a man call and do what you've done, and that's wonderful. Y'all make me feel good.
Well, great.
Bye-bye, everybody.
We all love you, Jerry. It's time for news, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we have a very special guest, right, Harvey?
Yes, Miss Linda Hargrove going to tell a little tale about her life and sing a couple songs.
Sing a couple of songs, strum that guitar. How do you like this, Jerry? Isn't this cool? Where they're in the studio. It's like the old Waking Crew days.
Yeah, amen. And y'all do it good.
Thanks very much.
God bless you, Mr. Gaylord, wherever you are.